Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the August 2023 Outdoor Ethics and Conservation Roundtable. It's great to see everybody. It's been a busy summer for all of us, and it's good to see all these familiar names and faces once again. This evening, we've got another great agenda for you. We're going to have our opening now. Well, then we'll move to a safety moment. Michelle will bring us up to speed on campfire safety. Then J.D. Tanner from the Leave No Trace will be talking to us about the new training for all and some of the changes that'll be coming for us as a result of that. After that, Matt Durant has created a great video for us on a teaching skill, how to use quiet. It's an awesome video, and I can't wait to be able to show that with you. We'll have a few announcements, some time for open discussion, and then we will adjourn. So that's the plan for this evening. If we could start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Scout Oath. On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country and to obey the Scout law, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically straight, physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. And the Scout law. The Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. 2. Now the outdoor code. As an American, I will do my best, be clean in my outdoor manners, be careful with fire, be considerate in the outdoors, be conservation minded. I love those hand signs. They're great I find they're great for teaching new kids. With that, Michelle, could you take us through campfire safety, please?
Yep. So for those that haven't met me before, I was a wildland firefighter in '88 in Yellowstone and Teton, which at the time was one of the worst fires in recorded history. Now it's way down there on the list. So as our climate changes, our campfire safety becomes even more critical. Paul, can you go forward?
Oh, there we go.
So who doesn't love that glowing campfire at the end of the day? But we want to make sure that it won't be our tent that burns. So we're going to look at some good fire safety practices. First and foremost, those environmental conditions. Leaders have got to understand that the local campfire regulations, what are the current fire conditions, especially if it's dry or windy. Check for any active burn bans. Coming from the Midwest, burn bans are a relatively new thing. So it was not uncommon for us Midwesterners to have these roaring campfires, and then we'd go out west and wonder why we either couldn't burn at all or everybody got uptight and they just wanted the little ones. Well, now that we have had our own share of wildfires here in even South Dakota, we're starting to get the hint. So make sure we are considering wind direction and what the size of your fire is going to be before starting. Make sure we maintain your campsite fire ring. Here's my bad camp story of the summer. I had a scout unit think it would be funny to burn outside of their campfire ring and post it on YouTube. They did not think it was so funny when I fined them a $300 fine for trying to burn down my camp. It is very important that as leaders, we are maintaining our campfire rings, that we are showing our scouts the right way to maintain our campfire rings. No trash, make sure they're 15 feet from the tents, make sure you look up so there's no overhanging branches, and then also make sure we're storing matches, lighters, and items in secure areas so that fires can't start accidentally. Never leave that campfire unattended. Again, our camps are notorious for that. Oh, we'll be right back. We're only going on a short hike and coming back. Somebody has to stay with that fire or it has to be put out. Make sure that they have a fire guard, that you know what to do if the fire does escape. Camp staff If you help with a camp staff, they should know what to do in case the campfire gets out of the ring, or we get a wind that comes up and blows that big campfire out of the ring. And then make sure we remember that additives are prohibited. So those nice sticks that you put in the fire to change colors and stuff, as far as Scouts is concerned, those are prohibitive. So no sprucing up our fires. Also, if somebody had one before you, make sure you're not cooking over a fire where those chemicals or additives have been used in the past. Otherwise, it could contaminate your food and make it taste yucky. Next. How big is too big? I get this question all the time. It depends. I love that answer. Ask your group the question, why are you making the fire? Is it to cook? You don't need a roaring campfire to cook your hot dog. Are you doing Dutch oven cooking? Is it to get warm or dry? Again, Northern Midwest, we have lots of snow. When they're out sledding and they come in all wet, they want a nice fire to warm up with. Are you signaling you're lost? So you want more smoke? Are you going to roast some marshmallows, or are you going to enjoy fellowships and songs? Again, our campfires at camp should be bigger than our campfire in our campsite to cook food. So it all depends. The next question you need to ask is, do you need a fire at all? If they just want a quick fellowship and then they're off to bed, getting a fire started and having to have somebody sit up with it all night may not be in anybody's best interest. Okay, next slide. Putting out a fire. This is my big one. Make sure that fire is out. Somebody put in, it is Smokey Bear's birthday. So I had to put them in here somewhere. So there's Smokey Bear prevention, how-tos, and how to maintain and extinguish your fire. Allow the wood to burn to ash if possible. Drown all embers, not just the red ones. Pour on water until the hissing sound stops. I always call it my wood sludge. With your shovel, scrape any remaining sticks to remove any embers. Make sure there's nothing exposed, nothing smoldering. You should be able to go across the top and not feel any heat. If it's too hot to touch, it's too hot to leave. And then pack it in, pack it out. It's your responsibility to pack out everything you packed in, including any trash. It does not belong in your campfire ring. With that, that's your safety moment for this week.
That was a good
Thank you
job.
very much, Michelle. And now let's move to our main presentation here. JD Tanner is Director of Education and Training for Leave No Trace. And he's going to give us an update on the Training for All. I think it's a pretty exciting changes that Leave No Trace is making, and I think we all look forward to hearing them.
Thanks, Paul. Well, first, I'd like to say thanks for inviting me and having me here to talk. Definitely excited to join you all and give you an insider view of Training for All and the changes that launched on July the 18th. A little bit about myself, I guess, first. As Paul said, I'm the Director of Education and Training at Leave No Trace. I've been back in the office for about 2 years now, 2 years in October. I was a traveling trainer for about 3 years. My wife and I worked for Leave No Trace back in 07, 08, and 09. I think I took my first course with Leave No Trace in 04. And I've held state advocate positions in New Mexico and Illinois. I've also worked for a course provider. So I've been involved with Leave No Trace for almost 20 years to some degree, whether in employment or volunteer positions or course provider positions. So I'm very excited to be back in the office in this position. I was actually hired by Ben Lawhon a couple of years ago, and was really excited to come back and work with Ben. And then he announced to me just after he hired me that he was going to be moving on to do something else. So I've kind of moved into a bigger role than I was expecting, but I'm still excited to be here and do those things. Go ahead and do next there, Paul. So let's talk about Training for All. So training changes have been discussed for a long time within Leave No Trace. They were discussed when I was a traveling trainer in 07, 08, and 09. And I think long before that. So these were things that have been discussed back and forth for many years. And when I came on board, it was officially placed into our strategic plan to implement this new initiative called Training for All, which included changes to make training more appealing and more accessible to many different groups, but also to make a lot of changes for our instructors. And hopefully these are mostly positive changes. Some people might argue otherwise, but hopefully y'all will see after today some of the reasons why we've made some of these changes. So here on the screen in front of you, I'm sure you all are familiar, this is the structure of training that has existed for Leave No Trace for, I'm going to guess, somewhere just around 25 years or more. And it's always been that awareness workshop, the trainer course, and then the master educator course. And what's not listed on there and was never kind of formally listed or shown on our website, or it was what we used to call the master educator instructors. So those are all of our providers, and the scouts being one of those. A lot of you all might be in those positions. So I'll kind of talk about today how this old structure has changed. And so, Paul, if you'll go to the next slide. So this is what the new structure looks like. So we've taken some of that old stuff and we've moved it to one side, and then took the rest of it and moved it over here to the other side of these two different, what we call tracks of training. So the instructor training track is geared more towards the professionals in the outdoors, or the I'm not going to say full-time educators, but people that find themselves out educating others on a pretty semi-regular basis, is what we call the instructor training track. So some of the feedback that we got in the office from our course providers and from many people for years is that they want to take Leave No Trace training, but they don't necessarily want to learn how to teach it to other people. They just want to learn the skills and be able to practice them when they go outdoors. And so one of the reasons why we've made this division here is a lot of that feedback. So now we have what's called the instructor training track. And so these are the people that are interested in learning to teach others about Leave No Trace. And not only that, but learning to teach others how to teach others about Leave No Trace. So train the trainers, if that's the most familiar language that you all might be familiar with. So then on the other side of that is now the new recreational training track. And so these are the people that, this is the opportunity for those people that just want to know the Leave No Trace skills and be able to take that information outdoors on their next outing and be able to practice. So whether they're going on a 8 or 9 day backpacking trip into the backcountry, or they're just going to go down the street to the city park, this is a great place for people to gather that training, that information, that knowledge through simple skills courses or workshops. And even those workshops can be in person or virtual. And we'll get a little bit more into all of those different offerings here as we go. But if we jump back over that instructor training track, you'll see that the biggest change probably to a lot of folks is that language change. So no longer are we master educators or trainers. We're now level 2 instructors or level 1 instructors. And then for those people that work for a course provider, and you are the train the trainers, if you're teaching master educator courses or what are now level 2 courses, you are a Leave No Trace level 3 instructor. So anybody can take the training to become a level 1 or level 2. You have to work for a course provider to be a level 3 instructor, if that makes sense to everybody. So then bumping back again over to that recreational training track, we moved what used to be awareness workshops. Those are now over here on that side. and you'll find that, we've taken away the word awareness, and they're just called Leave No Trace workshops. And then we've added a new course called the Leave No Trace Skills course, which is it's still a 2-day course, but it focuses primarily on the skills and giving people a lot of opportunities to practice those skills. So the big part about the skills course is people aren't given teaching assignments if they sign up for a course like that. So this is a very instructor intensive course. So if you are a level 1 or a level 2 instructor, you can now teach that Leave No Trace skills course and provide certificates. So this is a great one for any scouts that might be too young to take a level 1 or a level 2 course. They can take that skills course and still get the training and the certificate at the end of the course. I think I'm going to get into a lot more details on the next couple of slides. So go ahead and go forward there, Paul. So the highlights of the new instructor training. So the biggest move is that move from certificate to certification. This is definitely something that has been talked about for years. When Ben left, he gave me all of his notes. And I mean, those notes date back into the early 2000s that these discussions have been taking place of moving this into a certification world. And when I came on board and started having discussions with our executive director, it was, we just agreed it's time to make that move. And so we're making that move, which means that all level 1 and level 2 and level 3 instructors now have to go through a recertification process with us. And we're not going to put that back onto our providers. We wanted to make it still as simple as possible, but we wanted to make sure that all of our instructors are getting the most up-to-date information on the organization, the most up-to-date information on teaching skills, and then the most up-to-date information on the principles themselves. So the recertification process makes a lot of sense for us. It's a 2-year recertification as of July the 18th when we launched. Anybody that's a level 1 or a level 2 instructor, you're good through July the 18th. And then sometime in May of 2025, you'll start getting notices from us that it's time to recertify by July the 18th of 2025. Basically is how the recertification process will go. It'll be an online recertification process. You'll simply log in and go through the course. And once you're completed, you'll get your new certificate or certification at the end of that course. There are dues that are required for that, $50 for recertification for that. And to give you an idea, I'll save it. I've got another slide, that I need to send to Paul actually, but I'll save it and I'll give you an idea of what we're going to be doing with those fees so that you'll understand the purpose of the fees. A big change for us for our providers is that we are now permitting providers to offer level 1 and level 2 courses in many different settings. So no longer is it required that you have to sleep in a tent in the backcountry for 3 nights on a level 2 course. We're now giving providers the option, and we encourage them to provide both. We would love to see providers continue to offer both front country and backcountry setting courses. So hopefully people will offer both, and then that way people of all abilities will be able to attend those courses. I mean, just think about somebody with a mobility issue and you're expecting them to sleep on the ground in a tent for 3 nights in the backcountry to a place that they might not be able to even get to. I hate to say it in a crude way, but we've been denying many people the opportunity to take our training for many years. And we want to change that. We want our providers to offer many different settings. So that's a big change for us. We're also allowing providers to offer the level 2 instructor course in a hybrid format, meaning that day 1 and day 5 of the 5-day course, could be done virtually should the provider choose to do so. And then that way, people who are strapped for time, getting away from work, getting away from families, we can condense the time away that they can then be on site only for those 2 or 3 days to be able to take those courses. And these are all options for providers. They're not required to do these, but it is definitely encouraged that they provide these different options. And then this is a change that's been implemented actually for a little while. Sorry, I still have the trainer course language on there. The level 1 course is now an option that can be done virtually all the time. So any level 2 instructor that wants to offer virtual level 1 courses, they can do so. They don't have to come and ask us for permission. We encourage them to show us what their course format looks like. And we have all of that information online, what a suggested or a recommended format looks like and guidelines for those courses. But those are some of the bigger highlights in those changes for the instructor training. Let's go forward there, Paul. So then we have the new recreational training course. So this will include, still working on some bits and pieces. We didn't quite have all these things ready for the launch, but we're going to have fully developed lesson plans that any level 1 or level 2 instructor can pull off of our website. We already have those in several places, but we're going to be doing a little bit more of a robust offering so that instructors can feel fully prepared to go in and run courses. And then in addition to that, just a teacher that may not be certified as a level 1 or level 2, but wants to be able to teach Leave No Trace to say a classroom, they're able to do that. We want to have them prepared as possible. The big new piece is that I kind of already talked about it a little bit, is that 2-day skills course. Again, any level 1 or level 2 trained instructor can offer this skills course and provide those certificates. We're adding in, it's not special. Sorry, I really need to update this. Inclusive considerations into a lot of our different activities. So as we go through a lot of our 101 Ways activities book, you're going to start to see that we're going to add inclusive considerations in there. So should you have somebody show up for a workshop that you're planning in a wheelchair, it'll show you how you can adapt your activities accordingly to make sure that everybody that shows up can be included in those activities as you're running that training or that workshop or that course. We on the 18th, we launched the new Leave No Trace 101 course. So if you haven't had an opportunity to get on to our website and take it, I would encourage you to do so. We tried to make it very introductory, hence the 101 there, just to get anybody that has Leave No Trace background and knowledge. They might be kind of a refresher, but anybody that doesn't have any, it's really basic introductory stuff. And then the whole course is available in Spanish as well.
Which is what
And then additionally, you'll see more online workshops added from us. So actually today I just got the skeleton of a new horse and stock use online course that will be probably ready to launch within about a month, hopefully. So we've got that one coming forward. And then the next 2 in line, there'll be a new backcountry online course. And then we're also going to be working on, this is one specifically for instructors. Right now, I'm calling it an effective communication workshop. And we're actually collaborating with the Outdoorist Oath organization on that one. So that's an exciting collaboration that we have going, and it's basic, effective ways to teach Leave No Trace to make sure that we're inclusive of all people as we talk about it. Paul, I realized I sent you a PowerPoint that doesn't have this next slide in it. So I'm going to just kind of go through some of the points, and I'll send this to you so that you can then have an updated one to send to everybody. So I apologize for that. But between this slide and the last one that Paul has is what we're calling Training for All Phase 2. So the Phase 1 launch took place on July the 18th. Phase 2, to give you an insider look of what to expect from us moving forward with Training for All. I mean, obviously, the idea is Training for All, and we can't do that in one launch, but eventually, you're going to see more and more stuff coming from us, including, if you haven't already noticed, the website is now available in Spanish, and we'll continue to add additional languages to that as we go. It's probably the next one that you can expect to see would be Chinese or Mandarin as the third most spoken language in the United States. You'll continue to see a lot of Spanish translation of educational and training materials from us so that we can ensure that the second most spoken language, that the people that speak that language in the United States are able to take Leave No Trace and educate others. The Master Educator Handbook revision and the 101 Ways to Teach Leave No Trace revision. Those are going to be a couple of the big hefty things that you'll see from us. So there'll be some updates to both of those. And then the addition of a youth educator training level. So I can give you just a quick insider of what that's going to look like. If you don't know it already, our traveling teams travel around and they present what's called a youth educator workshop already. And so if you're a level 1, level 2, or level 3 instructor, and then you attend a youth educator workshop, either taught by our team or eventually online, then you will be able to hand out additional set of certificates to any youth workshops that you teach through that youth educator platform. There's still a lot of development going in that one. So you're not going to see that from us for maybe this year, but probably next year you can expect to see that new level of training available. And it's not going to require any additional training other than attending that 3-hour youth educator workshop from our staff or our online option for that. And then to give you an idea of what we want to give back to instructors through this recertification process, we're working on an instructor portal that you'll be able to log in and you'll be able to see your certifications, your membership, your other information that might be related to Leave No Trace. We're creating a set of badges. So if you take any of our online courses, you'll get a digital badge for that, and that'll show up on that portal. And then we'll also have instructor-specific materials and information and webinars and things like that within that portal that you'll have access to. I'm right now I'm calling them continuing ed courses. So I think that'll kind of still be that direction, and that effective communication workshop would be an example of what that might look like. And then our teams we're gonna have a team down in Philmont here in September, piloting another continuing ed workshop about how to process and debrief Leave No Trace workshops and activities. So that'll eventually be an online course then as well. And then you'll just continue to see additional materials and training development that'll be offered through that portal, but then also just be offered online. If you're not aware, we just released also the new Leave No Trace Skills and Ethics Guide, which replaces the North America Skills and Ethics booklet. So if that's something that you hand out pretty regular on any of your courses, that is being replaced. It's already available on our website for free digital download, the Leave No Trace Skills and Ethics Guide. You can pull that off. It's in our stores for sale. And what I'll say about it is built to be a field guide. So it's a little more durable covers. It's got notes sections in the back. So if it's something that might be appealing to you, it'll be in trainer course packets. Sorry, level 1 instructor course packets. So if you purchase those on a regular basis and provide those, you'll start seeing those in those level 1 instructor packets. Think those are the main things. Paul, if you want to go ahead there, the last slide. Oh, you know what? Shoot, I did send you the right one. There you go. Sorry, that was everything that I just talked about. All right, next slide, Paul. That's what I got for you today. I'm happy to answer questions. I know, Paul, you've got a process for that. I don't know if we're doing that now or later.
Yep. So one of the questions that came in was, when you say work for a provider, does that mean volunteers with organizations cannot be level 3 instructors? Again, being BSA and having our level 3 instructors may not be professional staff, but maybe volunteers. So is that acceptable, I guess?
I think I understand that question correctly. And so, yeah, so the Boy Scouts are a course provider for Leave No Trace. You are one of our, I would say, different course providers in that you only train in-house. And so you do have a little bit more flexibility in the way that you set up and run courses. And so the answer to that is yes. Anybody that is teaching level 2 courses for the Scouts, you are a course provider. So you would be a level 3 instructor if you're teaching level 2 courses. Does that answer the question?
Yes.
Yep. And Paul, I think that's what you
Right.
hinted at as well.
Yep. And Dave went into more detail on it than I did too in the chat. So yeah.
Yeah, I would encourage you to get on our website. There's a new training tab on our website, and you can go in there and you can click on that. And we have included all of the guidelines and all of the how-tos for all of the courses. These have already existed, and maybe you've seen them before, maybe you haven't. But there's a ton of information on these pages that you can pull. So if you haven't instructed a level 1 or a level 2, well, a level 1 course in a while, you can see the full guidelines and the full how-to of how to run a level 1 course, the new skills course, as well as any of the workshops are on there. To run a level 2 course, that instruction would come to you from the Scouts themselves.
We got some questions here that are more inside the BSA, because we've got a bunch of things that are related to Leave No Trace, but they really aren't part of what Leave No Trace does themselves. I have one question for you here. This one wasn't in there yet, but so are we going to update the patches and the pins and stuff to say level 1 instructor, level 2 instructor?
Yep, that's already underway. We ought to have new patches and pins in the store pretty soon.
Great.
And hopefully you'll see all the language. But you can always feel free to shoot me an email if you find something on the website that still says trainer or master educator. Feel free to reach out, and we'll make sure we get it changed.
Great. As far as the inside BSA questions here, I'd like to leave those for a few minutes, and then we can come back to those. I'd like to stick with the Leave No Trace content first, if that's okay. Question: can the level 2 course be more virtual for those of us who have a difficulty with distance? For example, we live in Hawaii.
Yeah, so we are giving our providers, including the Scouts, that option. So we haven't moved to a fully virtual option for that course yet. I mean, if the head folks at the Scouts in charge of all of that, Scott Anderson and Brian Gray, if they come to me with a course format and say, hey, we really need to move the level 2 course to fully virtual, I'm not saying that I couldn't be convinced. If that's a need, and I would support it if it's done right.
I've got another question here. Type them in, or I'll keep asking my questions here. How long do you anticipate the online refresher courses will be for level 1 and level 2?
It'll take about 2 hours most years, depending on what kind of changes there might be in any of the curriculum, and things of that nature. But you should expect for about a 2-hour course. And you'll be able to do an hour and log out and come back in and finish up later if you need to. If you can't sit at a computer for that long and need to get up and stretch your legs, you can easily log back in later and finish.
Okay.
Here's one for you, JD. Are cat holes eliminated from the front country track?
Or what?
Are
Eliminated?
cat holes going to be eliminated from being mandatory for the front country tracks?
No, the curriculum will be the same. So no matter whether you're teaching in a front country or a back country setting, curriculum needs to be the same so that we're teaching all of the parts and pieces of the principles that need to be taught. The only thing that is different is where you're sleeping at night for the most part.
We already do it.
If you want to give people the opportunity to go home and sleep in their own home at night, if that's more appealing and attractive to your participants, then I want course providers to be able to offer that. But at the same time, if everybody's, wanting to get outdoors and spend that time outdoors, you should definitely offer those courses as well. But we just need to make sure that we're offering opportunities for people of all abilities to be able to take our training.
Okay. And then the other question, level 2 courses are being planned for 2024. Will the course fees remain the same, or will they be greater than the $25?
The course fees for the scouts, you set those. We get an administrative fee per person from those.
The $25.
Yeah. So it's currently $25. Is that going to stay 25, or is that going to go up in 24?
No, it won't change. That all stays the same.
She's just reading the question. She's not the one asking.
So on the BSA side, I don't know, Susie, I think I saw you on. I don't know if you've got anything to add on the BSA side or not.
So right now, we're in the process of reviewing all of the awards and reviewing the materials from Leave No Trace. So we are anticipating getting lesson plans and things like that to see how it's going to fit in what we currently have. So we're sort of in a holding pattern until we get all the materials and we can adequately assess everything that we've got.
I'll add just real fast. I think the biggest thing to note on all of these changes is there are no curriculum changes coming from us. The curriculum is the same. Eventually, when we revise the Master Educator Handbook, you're going to see a few changes in there, but for the most part, you won't see any big changes even in that revision whenever we do that. So the curriculum will continue to be the same. I mean, it's going to change. Things are always going to change. For example, we just changed our recommendations to use bear canisters over bear hangs. We still teach bear hangs because they're still permitted in places, but no longer do we recommend a bear hang first and then a bear canister second. That is just swapped in our curriculum on those recommendations.
Good. If I got to carry it.
Yep, you get to carry it.
Sit on it.
Yeah, it makes a great seat.
Okay, any other questions from anybody? Did I miss anything that you saw, Michelle? Did we miss anything?
No, looks like Dave's been answering some of the questions, so.
Yeah.
On the BSA side.
Yeah, the chat.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, JD.
Paul,
Yeah.
yeah, it looks like there's one there, the kind of the patch police question, and I guess just that's more of a BSA question, but probably
Yeah.
as much for JD. And you kind of alluded to this, like the pins and patches will be updated, and I guess there's a lot of materials out there from Leave No Trace that use the words master educator and trainer and awareness course. So I guess all we'll expect is over the next several months to however long it takes, all of that stuff will be updated.
Yeah, it's all going to get updated. And I mean, don't throw stuff away. I mean, obviously, continue to use stuff and phase it out. Because like I said, none of the curriculum within that, those materials that you have is changing. So the curriculum is still good. We're just talking about the language changes. So I would encourage you just to continue to use what you have. If you got a big stockpile of master educator handbooks, by no means just start chucking them out the door or anything like that.
JD, one just came in. Is Leave No Trace going to need rosters for the level courses only, or will you need them for the recreational course as well?
That's a great question. So that is a big change that I definitely should have mentioned. So we now require rosters for everything. So if you want to be able to provide a certificate given by us, in which the Scouts is going to be a little different because you guys do a lot of this internally. But we've had a long history, unfortunately, where we haven't been able to really track what we called those awareness workshops very well. There are now roster uploads for workshops, for skills courses, for the level 1 courses, and eventually we'll have online roster uploads for the level 2 courses. And if you want to be able to provide a certificate to a participant that has completed that course, you need to upload the roster and to get that done. So
that'll be similar to what we do for trainer courses in the past.
It will be identical to those. And it's just reporting on our end. I mean, we've got tons of people that contact the office on a regular basis. Hey, I took a workshop with such and such, and I don't have a certificate. Well, if it doesn't get reported to us, we're not able to help that person out. And so that's a big change for us. You can no longer find the old awareness workshop certificate for free download on the website. We've removed that, and now you have to submit rosters to us to get those certificates. And so if you're running a course with kids, we don't need the kids' names. You'll just be able to go in there and say, hey, I'm running a workshop for 20 people. And that way we've at least got the number for that workshop. And that way, if you want to submit that before the course and be able to have that certificate on hand at the end of the course, you can do it that way.
And then one additional question came in. So insurance requirements, we have some that teach outside of scouting. Are insurance requirements going to apply to the recreational track as well?
They apply to the skills course, yes. So the same as you would do a level 1 or formerly the trainer course, you're going to have the same insurance requirements for the skills course. But I can tell you, we have worked with our insurance provider, and we've gotten that cost down considerably from where it was. It was, I think, a few $1,000s per year or something, and it's down to like $600 or $700 now per year. And unfortunately, it was great whenever we offered it for low cost out of the office, but that might be something that I'm able to revisit, since it is a little bit more affordable now that we could possibly go back to offering that. I'll have to talk with our finance guy and see if that's an option for us.
That would be good.
Yeah, I took advantage of that when I was teaching some courses on my own, and it was great.
Mm-hmm.
So here's one question. I guess it's more of a, just going a bit more on something you kind of talked to. Heretofore, the phrase certification was avoided because of the liability involved, and now we're certified. So how does that change liability?
Mhm.
That has just been a process that I've gone through with our legal department. And the basic conversation with our legal department was that because we're not certifying somebody in life-saving skills like a wilderness first responder or some type of an alpine guide course, that risk is much lower. And so after we went through that process, our legal department was supportive of it, as was our insurance provider. And so we were able to move to the certification for not a big hike in our insurance, based on, knowing that we're not certifying people to save lives. We're not certifying people, to rig ropes on a 200-foot climb and things of that nature. We're certifying people to dig a hole in the ground and poop in it.
Another question I just thought of here is, how will people who it's now 2025 and they don't recertify, but in 2026 they want to teach a course? How does that work?
Just get online and go through the course. We were not going to require anyone to retake the full course. So if you took your 5-day level 2 instructor course 4 years ago and now you've decided that you want to recertify, get online and take the 2-hour course and you're ready to go. We're not going to be anything like a wilderness first responder certification and say, now you got to go back and retake that 8-day course or anything like that. We still want to keep it as simple as possible for our instructors. But we definitely feel like there's the important parts of the recertification that I've already talked about. But then we also feel like recertification, just the label of a certification, is hopefully going to make it more appealing to professionals in the outdoor. We want Leave No Trace certification to become a must-have on a job posting. If you're going to work in the outdoors and it's required that you have wilderness first responder training and preferred that you have Leave No Trace training, we want to be up in the required area of that job posting, and not for money purposes. It's important that people understand how to protect the outdoors, and we want to be up there higher and make sure that professionals in the outdoor industry have the certification.
Want to force them into having your certification.
We don't want to force anybody into anything. We want people to want it.
Right. And one other question here just came in. So this level 2 recertification, this will be something different than the ME refresher that we take every couple of years today.
Yep. Yeah, it'll be, I think, I can't remember. I think you can probably go through the refresher in maybe 30 or 45 minutes, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is going to be a bit more. So it's not just going to talk about Leave No Trace, the organization. It's going to talk about, you're going to get updates on the organization and our programs, but you're also going to get updates on principal changes and updates. You're going to get also updates and changes on teaching and education itself. So we're certifying people to be teachers and instructors. So we want to make sure that you're getting the most up-to-date information on teaching skills and teaching theory. That'll all be in there as well.
Thanks.
Yeah. We want everybody to be great instructors.
On that note, is there going to be a different recertification for level 3, or will level 2 and level 3 be pretty similar?
Everyone will take the same recertification. It'll be the same course. And then, so what I'll say about, if you're a level 3 instructor, if you're working for a provider, you might have other requirements from the scouts. They might say, some of our providers require an annual training for all of their instructors, and they get together and they go out and they spend 3 or 4 days out and on a training course. We leave that different level of training for level 3 up to the providers. If they don't do anything, that's up to them. If they want to add additional, that's also up to them. We leave that to the providers to decide.
Okay. Thank you very much, JD. I've learned a lot tonight, and I think a lot of us have here. It's been very helpful. Really appreciate your taking your evening and sharing all this good information with us. And folks, if you have any more questions that come in, don't ever hesitate to email your questions to Roundtable at outdoorethics-bsa.org, and we'll gather your questions. We'll find answers and get back to you or report back in a future roundtable. So we're always glad to take your questions here. So
I dropped my email in the chat too. It's real easy, jd@lnt.org, and I'm happy to answer any Leave No Trace questions. And if it's very scout related, I'll probably bounce you back to somebody within your organization to answer. But if it's Leave No Trace specific stuff, I'm happy to answer.
Great. Thank you so much.
You got it. Thank you all.
Okay. Changing gears here a little bit. Matt Durant wasn't able to be with us this evening, but he's created a great teaching skills piece for us on the value of how to use quiet in teaching.
Hi, and thanks again for joining us at the August Outdoor Ethics and Conservation Roundtable. My name is Matthew Durant, and today we'll be exploring a topic that combines 4 principles of Leave No Trace. Number 4, leave what you find. Number 6, respect wildlife. And number 7, be considerate of other visitors. What we'll be exploring today is noise and its effects on nature and people. We live in a world where it is increasingly becoming difficult to let the sounds of nature prevail, as it says on your Leave No Trace hang tags. Man-made noise is so prevalent that we almost don't notice it anymore. Take a look at these statistics according to Quiet Parks International. 97% of the U.S. population is exposed to noise from aviation and highways, meaning quiet is nearly extinct. 90% of children will never experience natural quiet during their lifetime. As much as 17% of teens have indicators of noise-induced hearing loss in one or both ears. There are also some serious health issues that can arise from noise pollution that include everything from hearing loss to cardiovascular problems to reduced cognitive function, not to mention environmental degradation. The map you're currently seeing on your screen was produced by the National Park Service and shows the levels of man-made noise pollution throughout the country. The brighter the color, the noisier it is. This map reveals a few important things. First, that there is a big difference in the noise levels between the eastern and western halves of the country because, number 2, the most noise is produced where the majority of us all live, cities and towns. Although this map makes it look like there are lots and lots of places where it's very quiet, it's a little bit deceiving because in those really dark places on the map, almost nobody lives there. They're very remote, they're hard to get to, and even there, we're still not immune from man-made noise pollution. Even though I live in Utah, which looks to be in the middle of one of those dark places on the map, I'm in the Salt Lake City metro area, which is just as noisy as anywhere else in the country. What you're listening to is a recording I made on a typical Saturday morning in my own yard. We're so accustomed to sounds like these that we often don't even notice. I live a few blocks away from a major freeway and under the flight path of aircraft taking off and landing at the Salt Lake International Airport. There is rarely a moment of quiet at my house, even if I don't always notice. So let's talk about those dark spaces on the map, the ones that should be quiet. These are the mountains, forests, deserts, and grasslands of our nation, the places we go to recreate. But even in these places, there's a lot of man-made noise, the biggest culprits being vehicle and air traffic. In fact, air traffic noise is so prevalent in the United States that even in the most remote areas, there is rarely a 15-minute interval that goes by without some kind of commercial aircraft noise intruding. Now that we've seen how saturated our world is with man-made noise, let's take a look at this map, also produced by the National Park Service, that shows the levels of naturally occurring noise throughout the country. In this case, the darker greens represent more naturally occurring noise. You'll notice that in some of the drier, more barren places in the West, it's a lot quieter because there's less biodiversity. There's fewer birds, there's fewer trees. But in the East, where there's a lot of wet forests and swamps and grasslands and places that have a greater abundance of biodiversity, there's a lot more naturally occurring noise. So the idea of letting the sounds of nature prevail has a little more meaning once we understand how saturated the world is with those man-made sounds. Many people go to the outdoors to try and experience a quieter world. And in addition to that, our noise pollution can have some pretty serious effects on wildlife, everything from disrupting the echolocation of bats to interfering with the communication of whales in the ocean. Don't believe me? Try this activity with your unit. First, go outside of your typical meeting place and just listen. Listen with purpose for a minute or two, and take note of all the sounds you hear. How many are natural? How many are man-made? How many are the background of your everyday acoustic experience that you don't even notice on most days? Is there ever a moment of pure silence? Then on your next camp out, do the same thing. Is all you hear the sounds of nature? Or do you still hear man-made noise pollution creeping in? Cars, campers, planes, trains, kids, dogs, music? Do you hear any of that? Is there ever a moment when you only hear the sounds of nature? Here are a few tips to help you reduce your noise impact in the outdoors. Number 1, leave the portable speakers at home. Portable speakers are becoming one of the biggest noise disturbances in many parks and recreation areas. If you must listen to music, use earbuds. Avoid yelling and other forms of loud communication whenever possible. Your voice carries a long distance, especially over water. And finally, keep the night quiet. Have a quiet time set and stick to it. Allow yourself and others to enjoy the peace of a night filled with the sounds of nature or silence. Being in the outdoors is a great way to escape much of the noise of the human world, but we must be careful to bring as little of it with us as possible, minimizing our impact on the soundscape of nature. Hi, and thank
Once again, I think that Matt's come up with a great thought for us. Really appreciate that. So that's the end of our well, before we come to the end, I should say, always looking for your feedback. We'd love to hear from you. Was this valuable for you? What were the valuable parts of what we've done? And that helps us figure out what to put into future roundtables. So all your feedback is very much treasured, and we would appreciate any suggestions and feedback that you can give us. Thank you so much. And we've got if you don't want to send a note and type it up, you can go here. We've got a form set up for that. It's not too late to register for the National Outdoor Conference. Great program, and coming up at the end of next month. I can say next month now. It's hard to believe that September is just next month. I don't know what happened to this summer. We have level 2 instructor courses planned right now on the calendar. 2 more this year, and 1 scheduled for next spring. I've also put a link at the bottom for level 1 instructor courses for councils that have shared those on our calendar. You can find that calendar right there at that link. Finally, I'd like to close with my roundtable minute, and as I usually like to do, this starts with a quote from Aldo Leopold. On April nights, when it's become warm enough to sit outdoors, we love to listen to the proceedings of the convention in the marsh. So this brings to mind a thought for an activity to do with your kids. Gather your group and sit quietly and just listen to the sounds of nature in your area. See how this feeds right off of what Matt covered before here. And have them share with each other the sounds that they hear. Try to figure out what's making the sound. What are those sounds telling you? Why is that animal making that sound? Why do I hear that rustling over there? Figure out what that is, and and ask the kids, what questions does this make you think about? There's nothing better than to build engagement with nature than to start getting kids ready to and thinking about questions. Well, why is this? What is that? Those are great questions. And when you get those questions going in the youth, you're making great progress in getting them connected with the land. And that is it for the program this evening. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. It's been wonderful having you here. And we will be back next month with another roundtable. So we look forward to seeing you all then. Thanks.